Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to my workshop. This is Jeannie from Dollhouse Rescue. Hey, I've got something else going on tonight, something a little bit different. I'm doing a few short videos that answer some of the questions that I get from my friends that have dollhouses that they have purchased, vintage dollhouses that they want to address, make them a little better. I am going to show you tonight the basics on how you would prep a house like these. I've got the floors here to two different houses and how you would prep them to touch up the paint. Now this is going to need some, some not serious paint touch up, but it's going to need some paint touch up. First, you're going to clean them. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I've got a video dedicated to that, and you can find it by looking at my YouTube channel. But after you have it cleaned and wiped off, you've carefully cleaned it according to my instructions or something else that you think will work for you. Now we're going to prepare to paint. Now, to do this, I'm going to say, well, this is going to need some paint up here. And I like to touch it and see, do those rusted areas, do they feel raised, higher, thicker than these areas next to it? Now, if they're just rough, I'm not concerned. But if they're raised, then they've got a little bit of corrosion on them. And I like to knock that off with a little bit of sandpaper. So I use a real fine grit sandpaper. Let me get a piece out. This is one example. I've used other brands. They're all fine as far as I'm concerned. This is 220 grit. The bigger the number, the finer the grit. I would use at least 180 grit or higher. So you want at least 180 grit or finer, which would be a bigger number. So then I just take a little piece off of the corner. I've already got one off of here. I'm going to take another little piece. You just need a little scrap because you're just going to do little tiny areas. Then I like to kind of fold it up so I've got just a little bit of sandpaper exposed, and then I'm going to sand those areas. I'm going to get my finger in there. I've wrapped my finger in there, made a little sanding block out of my finger, and I'm going to do little circular motions right there on those spots that are a little bit corroded. And again, I could tell that because they're a little raised higher than the neighboring part of the dollhouse. Now, you will remove graphics when you do this. So you want to keep it very small and use a very light touch and use a very small area. Don't be sanding this whole area unless you intend to replace this whole part of the floor or repaint it or cover it. But if you're just going to touch up, just confine your sanding to that little bit of area that's kind of rusted and corroded. And use little tiny circular motions, pressing with the end of your finger. You probably won't even need to get another piece of sandpaper out, but you could if it looks like your grit gets worn off, you could. And I just do those very areas that are just a little bit raised. And then I touch it with my other finger to see, does it feel much flatter? Yes, it does. It feels much, much flatter. Just one more step. I'm going to do all of these little spots the same way. Do one more. I think that's good. After you get that done, you're going to want to wipe that off. And to do that, I would get a clean paper towel. Don't use a used one because you want to keep your surfaces clean. I'll make it just a little smaller. Then I use rubbing alcohol, which I keep in this spray bottle. Now, if you didn't want to use that, you could use a non-sudsy cleaner, such as Awesome Cleaner or 409 Cleaner or something like that. But I like to use rubbing alcohol just to get that rust dust off of there. So we're going to remove that rust dust. And so now look at how that's kind of changed the color of that from that rusty color to black. You can see I've got that surface off. All right, once I get that done to this whole piece, it's ready to paint. Now, if it needed straightened, well, I'd have to get my straightening tools out. That would be another video though. Okay, once I get all that done, I think I'm going to put a little paint on these. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, you have a friend here in Iowa all the time, a lot of friends in our Facebook group, and I hope you will join us. And please subscribe to my channel. I very much appreciate it.